This is Karen Ranzi of superhealthychildren.com and Instagram superhealthyraw. I've had a number of people on YouTube ask me recently about feeding babies and what are the best first foods for raising healthy plant-based children. And so I wanted to give you some tips. You can find out more by looking at my book, Creating Healthy Children. I have a whole chapter on foods for babies. But I want to give you some tips and talk a little bit about how to begin. I first wanted to say that most people feed their infants way too early. Most children do not have a good digestion in those first months. Their digestive system is still very immature and needs to grow and develop before they're really able to eat foods, solid foods. So mother's milk, human mother's breast milk, is best for human babies. And I always recommend that first. That is the real first food. Not formula. Most formulas are loaded with oils and high fructose corn syrup and synthetic supplements, which are not very absorbable. So how does baby get vitamins and minerals if they are not well absorbed? The best thing I can recommend is mother's milk. And even mothers who think that they're having difficulty, they can get help from an experienced lactation consultant through La Leche League to help them nurse their children and not have to give formula unless it's some kind of an emergency situation where they absolutely cannot breastfeed. But in most situations, help from a lactation consultant will be all that is needed. Now, when a child really is ready to start with solid foods, if the child has a full mouth of teeth for chewing, then, and the child also is reaching out for food, not only with curiosity about it, but with the desire to eat. For many children, I do want to say that they're not really ready to eat until between ages 1 and 2, and some of them closer to age 2. So we really need to look at each individual child and see, do they have the dentition? Are they really wanting to eat, or is it just exploration? So my 2 children were different. My daughter was really ready to eat at the end of the first year, and she did well digesting food. Children who were fed at like 4 months old, I mean, I don't know how they're digesting. I believe that's way too early to start feeding a child. The earliest would really be the end of the first year of infancy, and then on into the first year. So my son was ready to eat after the first year. I tried earlier, but he really wasn't ready, and he showed signs of not being ready. If your child is not showing digestion of the food, constipation, rashes, fussy behavior, those are just some of the signs that the child is really not ready to eat yet. So back up, relax, and let the child decide when the child is ready to eat. You will know. I'm sure that you will know. And so what should be then the first food when the child is really ready to eat? Most parents, most moms especially, give their child baby cereals, like rice cereals. Now, the young child does not have the salivary enzyme ptyalin or pancreatic enzymes to properly digest those complex carbohydrates until between ages 3 and 4. So you would not want to go to those grains, and especially the processed grains that we see in most of those baby food jars. And in fact, those baby food jars, even organic ones, are sitting, they've already been processed They've been blended and placed in jars, and the nutrition has already evaporated and they're oxidized. And the child's body has to work hard to digest those, and they're not healthy for children. So I don't recommend those jarred baby foods which have been promoted to us. What I do recommend is chopping bite-sized pieces of ripe organic fruit as the first food, because ripe fruit such as speckled bananas, these are ripe when they are speckled, and they are pre-digestible and much easier to eat as a simple carbohydrate for a more immature digestive system. Chop this banana into bite-sized pieces, place it before the child, and see if your child wants to eat it, or if your child is just fooling around with it and doesn't really show signs of really wanting it, then you may have to wait a bit. But many children at the end of the first year, or sometime between the first and second year, will be ready to have bite-sized pieces of ripe fruit. Banana, mango, pear, apple, but you may have to peel the apple initially. So start with ripe fruit. I have a sequence of what most children go through in eating the first foods in my book, Creating Healthy Children. And there's a whole chapter here on what to feed baby and when. So this will be a really good resource for those of you who are looking to raise healthy vegan children. The banana being speckled, chop it, sit with your child and chew together. When you are chewing and your child watches you, the child will also be learning how to chew. I see a lot of adults who gulp their food. They are not properly chewing. And I think some of this stems from when they were young and they were given purees. They weren't given pieces of food to chew. So their first feeding was learning to gulp, instead of learning how to use their teeth and their first line of digestion, the mouth, to properly chew the food. So you as the parent, sitting with your child and chewing and letting them see you chew so that you are the model for them, will create good digestion. And that, starting in the mouth with chewing, is the best thing that I can recommend. Whole, bite-sized pieces of fruit, ripe fruit. I hope that this was helpful, and I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe and share it with others who you think will benefit from this information. And please do comment on foods, the early foods that worked for you and your children, and what ages even, if you would like to comment about that. I appreciate any comments that you have about your own family and your own children. And please like. Thank you so much. And you can see me here on YouTube at Super Healthy Children, Instagram, Super Healthy Raw, and my website, superhealthychildren.com.